Hi everyone, we are back. It's been a little bit. I've been busy. Apparently I have work I have to do outside of this project. Um, but we keep going. Today, in this video rather, what I want to do is we're going to look at a new technique that we haven't covered at all. And in fact, I don't think I've even covered in any Serverpod videos, but I have used it before on projects. And it's called a future call. And future calls are Serverpod's solution for essentially like not quite background tasks, although maybe they could be considered that, but they're basically for scheduling a task to happen in the future. And it's really cool the way it works because it's not like something that's stored in memory in Redis or something that, if your Redis resets or whatever, you lose all that. It's actually stored in the database, which is a cool way to do it. And basically there's, I guess, some kind of under the hood in Serverpod, something running that's, doing a tick every once in a while, being like, okay, what future calls are scheduled where the time is either now or past, but it hasn't actually been executed on, and it calls it. So what we're going to use to do this, because something we need to do anyways, is actually someone on my Discord brought up a point about a week ago saying, hey, like we shouldn't be storing the Google Place data persistently because it's against their terms, which is true. There are certain things you can store. There are certain things that you have to refresh every once in a while. And there are certain things they recommend to refresh, although you're allowed to store. So let's look at our, let's look at and remember how this works. So I'm going to go to our backend here. And we're going to go into our models and specifically the venue model. So we'll look at our venue. And some things on here that are Google Place related. We have our latitude, our longitude. Let me make this one bigger. Latitude and longitude, and Google Place ID, address. I think these are the only things that we are worried about. Our rules here, we can store the Google Place ID forever. That is something we kind of have to store so that we can, essentially it's like the primary key of a Google Place on their API. So we're going to keep that stored. We're not going to touch that. Address is actually something we're allowed to store persistently. Basically, some of their basic info you can store, like a name and various things like that. However, they do recommend, hey, like you should, just in case there was a change, refresh it every once in a while. So we are going to handle refreshing that. Latitude and longitude is one of those things, hey, you can't store this. You can store it for 30 days is basically their rule. So what we essentially need is a way to refresh these things. So basically, there's a couple ways we could do this. We could essentially schedule every time a venue changes or is created. I guess when the venue is created, we could schedule that future call for that particular venue, and it would basically keep going. That's one way we could do it. We could also have something that's just that is resyncing all of them every 30 days or something. But I think we'll do it on a venue by venue basis so that we can really like make sure we're committing to these terms here. So yeah, we're gonna go to our. We're just gonna get into it, yeah, just just as a reminder, I'm not on these videos. I'm not really like writing any code ahead of time like I am on some of my more focused tutorials. That would take way too long to build this thing twice. So we're gonna kind of make it up as we go. I am gonna get the docs up for Serverpod Future Call because it's been a bit since I've done it. Serverpod, let's see if I can just search for future call. Scheduling. All right, so we invoke session, example future call. Oh yes, we make it its own thing. Okay, so it extends future call. So do these go in? I think we just put them in our own, in its own file, I guess. Sure. So let's not look at generated code, but let's in fact look at, we have endpoints. Oh yes, there already is a folder here. Look at this. We already have an example one. So let's just make a new one called venue future calls, I think. Do we use plural on these things? Yeah, endpoints. I think we'll do venue future calls because we might, have multiple. And let's actually grab the example one and we'll call this, we can probably call this venue Google Place resync future call. All right, and the model we're going to be passing into here, we can actually specifically say it's going to be a venue. And then let's make sure Wait. Oh, maybe it has to be. Oh, there's an Why is this abstract? Okay, let's look back at the docs again. Okay, so we have to register the future call. Invoke the future call 1 hour by now by doing this. Serverpod, future call with delay, cancel future call. Okay, so those are all of our kind of things. So I guess, yeah, let's register this this future call. So we'll go to our server.dart, and I guess there's no specific place to do it, but I think maybe we'll do it right here. Future calls. And we basically go pod.register future call. And here we pass in the future call itself, which is venue Google Place resync future call. It's a great name. Feels like we're writing Java right now. And we will import that. And we give it a name. Okay, let's just use the same thing. We'll string it, and we'll just make it camel case instead of Pascal case. And let's just restart our server. Let's make sure all of our files are saved, of course. Restart our server just to see if any errors get thrown. All right, cool. Yep. Keep in mind if you are using Serverpod Mini, you know, a lot of things you do in this tutorial will not work. One of them is feature calls because they are stored in a database. So Serverpod Mini is pretty cool, but you know, you lose a lot of the things that you would need. Okay, and then it looks like we would call it by going, okay, session serverpod feature call with delay or feature call at time. We can probably do delay. So let's go to our venue. It would be in our endpoints. Let's look at our venue endpoints. And there's our list, our search, our retrieve, our save. So we want to do it in our save, but let's make sure we're not doing it in the update. We only want to do it in the insert. So what I want to do is actually go here and say final. We'll just call it like saved venue because we actually want to get, you know, things like the primary key and everything back here. And what we want to do is we can do await session.serverpod.future call with delay. And here we pass in our call name. So let's just go back to here. Sorry, to our server, and let's grab this as our call name. We're going to pass in the object, which is going to be a saved venue. And our delay is going to be, for our purposes, we are going to just do 30 seconds for now. That way we can test if this works without waiting, you know, 30 days. Obviously, we'll change that at some point. Okay. So yeah, that will do that. And that's our data. And yeah, so we could have chosen doing a time or a delay, but I think delay makes sense. It's just instead of calculating a date, we can just be like, we want it 30 seconds from now, or, you know, this will eventually change to probably 30 days. Okay, so we have that. Now what we need to do is in here actually do it. Now I'm curious, can we change? Let's look at the code here. Invoke, do something interesting in the future here. I love it. So the thing is, I want to change this to be venue so that it knows what it is. But then I get this error because it's saying isn't a valid override, or should it be venue? It's supposed to be a serializable model, which venue I believe is. Let me just make sure. If we click through this, it is extending. Oh, it's extending table row. But does table row? Serializable model, yeah. So it is a serializable model. Okay. So I guess we can just check if object is venue. I'm gonna see what I've done this before, so I don't know how I handled this before, or if it was just an older version of Serverpod. But we'll just make sure, like, okay, if any of them, do we want to do this? So now what we need to actually do is, you know, actually sync. However, for now, let's just print something like, you know, calling the future call on, and we can actually print out the object dot, let's just do to JSON, so we get kind of all the data to deal with it, to do with it. All right, so let's stop our server, and then yeah, let's just double check in our venue endpoint. We are calling this. Oh, we have to return saved venue from this, because before we were just returning it, but now we cast it to a value and do it. So a little restart there, and we'll go to our app, which I have running, and let us create a new venue. So let's search for a place. I'm kind of sick of. Let's get some coffee. Let's get some coffee stuff here. There we go. I'm not gonna worry about an image. I'm not gonna worry about any of this stuff if it's not required. Okay, so we got that. And now in theory, so we did the save. We can see in our logs here. In 30 seconds, hopefully we'll see something printed out. I imagine is how this is gonna work. Meanwhile, let's open up our database and let's just take a look at how this actually, works. I'm just going to let this 30 seconds go by. I'm not timing it, so I'm going to just get our database open up. So there is a table called future call, and if we actually go to the data of it, there doesn't seem to be anything in it. So something did not work. Let's review our code. Oh, here we go. So it did. All right, that's good. It did kind of work. Like it tried to do something 30 seconds later. I'm curious why it doesn't show up in here unless it already got, it might have just got erased at that time. I'm not sure how this works. Let's just click refresh and find out. Yeah, I don't see it in there. Okay, so let's figure out what went wrong. Register. So we registered it. We passed our data in. Data is an object created from a class defined in one of your YAML files and has to be the same as the one you expect to receive in a future call. In the model folder, data may also be null if you don't use it. Okay. All right. I am just going to pull up a project on my other screen real quick and see what's going on. Okay, small update here. I figured out the way we can actually do this, the way to properly do it is before this just kind of looked like this. We can actually mark it as a specific type of future call. If you look at the definition here, there's a T. So it's using a serializable entity model by default, but we actually want to change it to what it is. And then we can actually make this save venue, which does have to be nullable. It can technically be null. I'm not sure why, but so we want to check the object, and we can actually change this to probably the word venue just to make this work better. And let us just restart our server. And as soon as it restarts, I'm going to create a new one. So let's look for Dunkin' Donuts or something. I'm just trying to do, sure, in Niagara Falls. That's close. I'll click save. So we should see, I've changed it to 10 seconds as well, so you don't have to wait for 30 seconds. And let's actually just get our database up real quick and refresh. See, we can see it in here. That's great. We'll look at that in a minute. But let's just make sure, stuff works. Okay, cool. So you'll see we got calling the future call, and we're actually printing this stuff out. So our future call worked. We're not doing anything with it yet, but we know it is working 10 seconds later. And if we look at it, I believe this is already gone. I'm going to refresh to prove it in a minute, but essentially we have this name of it. We have when it should run. We have the actual object we passed in, server ID default, and identifier we're not using. There's probably a good use for that, but right now we don't need it. Now, if I refresh this, you're going to see it's gone, because the way Serverpod deals with this is once it executes it, it erases it from your database table because it doesn't, need it anymore. It's already been done. So how do you imagine we can have this set up so that, we're essentially going to have it, we want this to happen every 30 days or something, right? So my thought is let's actually have the future call kind of re-invoke itself, basically make another future call. So let's see if we can figure out that first before we actually get the logic in. So I'm just going to grab this, and we're just gonna put this right at the bottom here, and we're going to use the venue, And yeah, let's try this again. So in theory, what should happen is we should see this printing out every 10 seconds if I did this correctly. So we'll restart our server. And let's just search for the word coffee, because I can't think of other coffee things. There we go, coffee culture. That's a good one. So we should see in 10 seconds this thing happen. I should start a timer. Next time we'll count down when we see it. Okay, there we go. We had it happen. So like 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, that was pretty. I'm a good counter, or Serverpod is, or we both are. We worked well together. So there we go. That's just going to keep going, which is great. Now, obviously, this is a little bit. I mean, a little bit expensive probably to be just like doing this. Expensive from a processing point of view, to have it keep calling itself. But imagine we're obviously going to be doing this every 30 days. It's not going to be like in this infinite loop. Okay, so we know we can do that. Now. The fact is we have a couple things here that I want to make better before we actually get into the logic for this. So let's stop our server. For one, we have this like 10 seconds, thing in 2 spots. And we also have this in multiple spots. It's in 3 spots, I believe. So what I kind of want to do is let's have a new thing. I'm putting it in helpers. I'm kind of making up how I want to architect this as we go. Serverpod has a lot of opinions on certain things, but I think outside of its normal offering of just like, its models and endpoints and future calls and stuff like that, there's not really, I think, a design pattern that's, been published as like, this is the way to do it. So maybe that's what I'm doing right now. So let's just have something called like future call helpers.dart. And a couple things we can do in here is, first of all, let's just I like this approach of just kind of having static classes, really just for namespacing. So we'll have something called future call helpers, and let's actually do this. And we should actually name this future underscore call underscore helpers. And let's just have some static consts. So we're going to have something called it'll be a string, but we'll call this venue Google Place resync name. I don't need to put the word future call in here because we're going to be working with it with future call helpers dot venue Google whatever thing name. And then what we can also have is venue Google Place resync duration or or like day, let's call it like days, days between calls, or frequency. Now, I think I can do this. Yeah, we can actually make this a duration object now. I believe that can be a const. And we're going to just keep this as like seconds as 10 right now, but obviously we'll change this. So that solves some of our problems here. So let's go through and refactor now. So we'll go to our venue endpoints, and instead of just this string here, what I want to do is actually import this in and call the name of it. And we'll do that same thing in the other 2 places that we're using this. So for instance, in our server, we're registering it. We're going to just register it like that. Okay, that is good. And then we have another place that we're calling it. It's in our endpoint, right? Oh, we already did the endpoint one, but we call it again here. So we want to make sure we're using that. And this will just eliminate typos, right? I've said this before, but anytime you see like a string in your code being used, or even like a number, like something that's not an enum or a constant multiple times, you want to find ways to, make those a constant or something that you can, have basically type safe on, right? Because I can just do this and I'm going to get something back. And if I accidentally do duration, or whatever it was, frequency, we're going to have an error because this is expecting a string, not that. So just nice and type safe, and it eliminates, a copy and paste error or a refactoring change. Oh, I want to rename this and I missed one. Your whole project could break. It doesn't like the word venue here. That's annoying. I'm just going to change this to object so that we don't have that warning. Object, and then change this back to venue. Venue. Yep. Okay. So that's good. And then for our duration, we're going to do something pretty similar. we want this to be our future call helpers.venue duration, or frequency, we called it. So we want to do that there, and we need to do it here as well. Great. So now we've kind of made it a little bit more type safe and ready to go. So I think that's good. Let's actually make this happen. So let's look at our venue endpoint, because I think that's where we have this. So we have the search replace endpoint. Let's see how that works. So search replace goes, it calls our Google Map API. We do this. Look, we have this lovely thing. This will become a constant. This will become an environment variable at some point. And what we actually need to do now is actually have another endpoint. We could do it. I think it makes sense to do it in here. Let's have a future that returns a Google place, but it could technically be null. So we'll do that, called retrieve place. Retrieve. Because we might need this in our front end too at some point. And of course we need our session object as usual. And then we're going to need a string for the place ID. And similarly, we're going to do something like this. But we don't want to use the, we don't want to do this. We want to essentially use whatever their endpoint is. So let's look that up real quick. Google Place API retrieve by place ID. Okay. Here we go. Place required parameters. Okay, give me, is it just a get parameter we can add? I guess so. So let's grab this and basically replace this. And for our parameters, we need to make sure it says we need a place ID. Let's copy that. Place ID equals, and of course, we'll just use our place ID passed in. If we want to make it a little bit more safe, we can also do a .trim on it, just in case we accidentally passed it in with that. Might as well. Okay, so now we'll have our try, we'll have our catch, and let's catch e. We'll return null if there's an error, but we'll also print the e out for us for now. Eventually we'll get logging working and it'll be great. Okay, so now for our response, we don't actually, oh, we can do it this way, cool. So we can actually just do place ID like this, and we'll take our place ID.trim. And I can get rid of this from here. This just makes it easier to have multiple things because we definitely need a key. And then, yeah, let's print out, let's see if the docs tell us how it comes back. Oh, we probably want JSON as well. Okay, wait. Oh, output, I see. We do actually output, what? Detail/output, where output could be one of the following values. Yeah, we definitely want JSON. I think that's what we did below. Yep. Okay, great. Makes sense. So let's, what is response? We can do the same kind of thing. Make sure it's a status code of 200. And let's just print out response.data. Okay, retrieve place, and we just have to return null or something for now until we actually get that Google place back. Okay, cool. So let's restart our server, and we need a way to invoke this. We could, of course, call it from Flutter, but I don't want to set up all the stuff for that. I think we'll just do it in our future calls since that's where we're going to be doing it. So we should be able to take our venue endpoint. Oops. How do I import this? Can I just call, there is a way, I know I've done this before. Okay, so venue endpoint extends endpoint, yeah, I think we can just do it this way. Oh, what was it? Retrieve place. What's this telling us? An unnecessary cascade. Okay, and then here we would pass in the object dot place ID, Google place ID. We should also check if object.Google place ID does not equal null. Then we're going to await this. And final, whatever, we'll just do that for now. Well, this will eventually be a Google place. As you'll see here, it's going to be a nullable Google place. We'll work with that in a bit. And we're already checking if it's null, so we can safely put a little exclamation mark there. All right, now we need to, let's actually remove this for now. Just comment it out, because I don't want to like have this going in a loop. And actually, the funny thing is, I think when we restart this, it will just, let's see, because we should actually still have a future call in here. Interesting. I think right when we start up, this is actually going to get called because it's going to look for any that have passed. And because the code's changed, it doesn't care. It's just going to run whatever our new code is. So let's find out. There we go. It worked as I thought. So we got back all this stuff. I should have done a to.json on this. So let us, I mean, we should have kept in the loop. It would have actually made this easier. You know what? Let's have it in the loop. Let's just make our frequency more like 30 seconds. Now, what I actually want to print out is response.data. I want to basically JSON encode this. And the reason is I can copy it from my terminal and basically be able to look at it better. Because this isn't actually, it's not actually JSON. It's showing it as like a Dart's version of, you know, basically a map. You know, you'll see why this will be better. Okay, so we have to start this server again. Now, I don't think we're going to have any future calls in here anymore because we didn't reinvoke it. But that means we have to go to our app and actually make a new venue to get this process started. So let's search for more coffee places. Deadly Ground, that's a good one. And we'll do save. And we should see, although I made this 30 seconds now, we will see this stuff come in. I'll pause for, you know, people watching. All right, so we have all this lovely data here. Let's basically grab it. And again, this is JSON now, so I can actually take it if I get it from the right spot. I think right here. I can make a new file. And a couple ways I could do this, but I can actually just save it. This is how I usually do. I just save it to like a random place called like Google place.json, and VS Code will automatically format it. So this is helpful because I can actually kind of see it. So the part that what are the parts we care about? Let's look at how this works from the search for place. So we were getting, we were going through results, and we were taking the place ID, this. Okay, cool. So let's see where that, I assume it's just result now. And let's just make sure geometry shows up in result. Geometry. Okay, so this is, if we go here, you can actually see in VS Code, it's in result and then geometry. So that's perfect. So we can essentially now take this same code here that we do here, and we'll just go result equals response.data result, which is kind of what we did below, right? We have that right there. And now we can go just kind of change this to, oops, just a result. All right, cool. And then we'll just make something called place. And that's ultimately what we want to return from this function, is the place itself. So this will get the data, and everything will be good, because this, yeah, returns a Google Place. Which Google Place, this is our own model. Remember, we made one just based on the stuff that we needed. It was, we did it a while ago. Go back to the venue stuff, or wherever we did that, something to do with Google Places. Okay, so that will now return stuff, which is great. We could probably do a couple other checks here. We can say, like, if response, response.data, oops, contains key, response.data, does it not know what, I don't think it knows what it is right now is the problem. It's T. Well, we won't worry about it. We have a try catch, so if something goes wrong, we'll see the error and it will return null. So we're fine. We'll let errors happen and just catch them. Okay, so that is good. We can also get rid of this printing. And now, what do we actually want to do with this? Well, we are going to go back to our future call. And let's call this like, yeah, so we got back a Google Place. And then what we can actually do is just go take our object, which is our venue, and we can go object dot, we don't need to change the Google Place ID. We know that's going to be the same, but let's take its address and let's make it equal to Google Place.address. Now we are having an error because this could be null. So we're going to wrap this obviously in a Google place does not equal null, and then we'll do our updates here. Something goes wrong, okay, cool. Maybe if something goes wrong, we'll actually like schedule it to happen sooner. I think that's probably a good solution. So object dot, what else do we have in here? We have latitude. It's going to be equal to Google place dot latitude, and of course we need the longitude. So again, as a reminder, these are the things we have to like sync according to the terms every 30 days. Whereas address is something they just recommend resyncing. It is something you're allowed to store in your database persistently. All right, so that's it. And oh, name. Okay, now name, do we actually, let's see what happens when we actually create a place, because I don't think we set the name on it. So let's go save, update row, save venue. Yeah, where do we actually, oh, I guess client side, it takes that stuff. So let's look at that code real quick. Venue form provider, probably. So we save, okay, name controller. I think we just pre-populate it with the name from there, but we give the user the ability to actually update it. So we don't want to actually override that. Like if that means every 30 days, the name would keep getting reset. So we won't do that, but we will do the other two, or three, I guess. We're updating the address, we're updating this and updating that. And then of course we have to do object.save, which that's not how you do a save. We actually have to go venue.db.update row. And here we pass in object, like that. We can await this, that's fine. And then what I think we'll do is, will this final success equals, I mean, yeah, it should just work. I don't see why it wouldn't. Yeah, I think let's do it this way. Yeah, we'll just call this updated venue, which, oh, I guess this could never be null, right? Yeah, okay. So yeah, we'll just await. And then within here, this is when we're going to call this code right here. So we'll do the code there. So if everything went well, we schedule it to happen in 30 days, or right now in 10 seconds. And then let's actually just return fully out of this so that this code doesn't execute. And what I want to do is let's have another resync frequency on error, we'll call it. And maybe this one's, something like, let's do like 10 seconds. We'll probably, tweak that. So if it gets to this code, we'll actually use this to call it more sooner, because something went wrong. Maybe Google Places was down, maybe whatever. But we don't want to wait another 30 days for that to be solved. So that's kind of my thought process there. Okay, let us run this again. All right. How can we even test this? Maybe we should put some logging in of some sort. So let's go to our venue feature calls, and let's just print something like updated venue info. And we'll do here like, oops, an error, trying again sooner, just something like this. Okay, so let us run this. Actually, one more thing. Let's go to our feature call helpers. I'm going to make this 10 seconds and this 5 seconds. Beautiful. Let us. Oh, because we had yeah, we still had it in the probably in the background here. Let's see. Yeah, cool. So it's running updated venue info. Cool. So let's cancel out of that. We should still have a feature call in here. This is kind of nice. Nice way to test. I don't have to keep creating things. Now what we could do is let's find a way to throw an error somewhere in here. Do we have a? This actually doesn't have a try catch. But if Google Places null, it won't get into here. So let's actually go to our venue endpoint where we do this. And let's just return null as a test. So something went wrong, There's various ways we could obviously do it. So we'll run this, and we should see, yep, oops, an error, trying again sooner. And now we should see within 5 seconds this come up again instead of 10 seconds. Yeah, so that's working exactly as expected. We are good. And just for all good sakes, let's go to our database. Let us refresh. Let us actually delete this record right from our database, which edit, delete current row, and then we actually have to do something, I think Command S to execute it. We'll start it up. So we've cleared out all of our future calls in our database. And our app's running. And let's go and create a new venue. We're going to find more coffee places nearby. Looks good to me. So we save that, and we should see, if I review, in 10 seconds, we should actually see the resync happen again, where we hit our Google Place API. There it is, updated venue info. All right, cool. So let's stop this. Let's put these two real things. So for instance, I'm going to play it even safe, even though 30 days. Let's do it every 15 days. And then in the case that it's an error, we'll check again like tomorrow. So we'll do days 1. Technically, we have a bit more time anyways. So so if it breaks, we still technically, this thing could run another 15 times and we'd still be conforming to their APIs. And then yeah, in the case that I realize, oh my gosh, our Google Place API bill is really expensive, we'll tweak this and make it actually better. All right, so there we have that in place. I'm pretty happy with it. Future calls, it's a cool feature, super helpful for scheduling stuff that you want to happen in, you guessed it, the future. Thanks for hanging out in this video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.